Coming up tonight on the news at 5, Montana schools continue to grapple with COVID-19, how the virus is impacting one central Montana school. Plus, residents of a Great Falls mobile home park literally take ownership in their community.
From Montana's news leader, this is MTN News at 5.
Well, good evening and welcome to the news at 5. I'm Marian Davidson. Thanks for joining us. All right, well, let's get right into first weather this evening with Chief Meteorologist Curtis Grevenitz.
Well, the wind is hitting everybody out there. It's a wicked wind. Good afternoon, everybody. The wind was the cause for a semi-rollover right near Conrad here, and the Department of Transportation has closed Interstate 15 right through Conrad for 24 hours. Pend Oreille Emergency and Disaster Services has required that only emergency vehicles travel through this area. So keep that in mind. Keep in mind Interstate 15, if you're driving up that way or down that way with this west wind that's been really brutal, it's going to be really tough to either drive a high-profile vehicle or to pull a trailer. All sorts of wind watches, warnings, advisories out there, and this wind will get worse as we go through the day tomorrow. Worse than what we saw out there today. Gone with the wind, literally. Some wet weather over the weekend, over the next few days as well, will help with the fire danger. And come this weekend, not talking about fire, talking about a pretty good cold snow event. More on the full forecast coming up.
The state added more than 420 cases of COVID-19 over just the past 24 hours. Active cases are now well over 6,700. Coronavirus-related deaths in the state are just shy of 220. But more than 12,000 people have recovered from the virus. School districts around the state continue to grapple with COVID-19 cases to varying degrees of success. One district of note, Lewistown Public Schools. They're in remote learning through Wednesday, but Superintendent Tom Peck says they currently have only 4 confirmed active cases. What is causing them problems? Staffing. While there are only 4 positive cases, the district has over 80 people in quarantine. Peck says they have also lost some substitute teachers due to health concerns.
Staff member that a child was placed in quarantine, so then they have to stay home to take care of their child. And what sort of happened with it was we didn't have enough substitutes to really do a good job in in-person instruction.
Coming up tonight at 10, we'll have an update on COVID-19 in Lewistown Public Schools as well as Great Falls Public Schools and Havre Public Schools, where officials say there are more than 160 people in quarantine throughout the district. The body of a missing Great Falls woman has been found. Sally Jane Damaris Smith was found dead on Sunday, according to the Cascade County Sheriff's Office. She had last been seen on September 25th. Around 2:30 p.m., her body was located inside her 2005 Toyota Corolla in a storage unit at 3033 Malmstrom Drive in Cascade County. Sheriff Jesse Slaughter said an autopsy is scheduled for Tuesday in Missoula and that he will provide an update after reviewing the autopsy. We still do not know the cause or manner of death. The Sheriff's Office has not released any further information. Well, new tonight, residents at one Great Falls mobile home park now have a little more control over their future thanks to NeighborWorks Montana. Coulter Anstat has what residents are now doing and how it's already paying off.
The wind was gusting at Pleasant Park Mobile Home Court Monday. Call it the wind of change. The park is now one of 3 in Great Falls no longer owned by an investor. Instead, it's resident owned.
Residents have the ability then to basically stabilize and keep the lot rents that they have, keep the affordability, have the chance to really have pride in ownership.
NeighborWorks Montana and Rock USA purchased the park from the previous owner when the owner put it up for sale. NeighborWorks announced the resident ownership Monday. Residents will use their lot rent to pay off the purchase, so they'll eventually own the land outright, something NeighborWorks Montana says is increasingly important.
The trend that we've seen specifically this summer is homes and communities being bought and purchased by out-of-state folks sight unseen. which drives the median home price, median value up astronomically.
The president of what is essentially now Pleasant Park's Homeowners Association says this happened with 2 parks in Great Falls.
It was very concerning. It became the driving force to work with NeighborWorks and Rock.
The pride in ownership, he says, is already being realized.
One thing that we're doing right now is working with an engineer to restructure the entry.
We're really hoping that, people will realize that there needs to be homes that Montanans can afford.
In Great Falls, Colter Anstad, MTN News.
To learn more about the program, click on the link in this story on our website. Well, for the past few months, our chief political reporter, Mike Dennison, has been working to keep you informed on the upcoming election. That includes fact-checking several of the ads that run during commercial breaks across all of Montana's news stations. But we also want to make sure you have the tools to do this yourself. MTN's Lauren Heiser sat down with a professor of journalism law at the University of Montana to talk about what legal obligations these ads are required to meet and how you can tell fact from fiction.
Since running for president, Steve Bullock has moved far left with the National Democrat.
How much is your health care worth to you? It looks like it was worth $700,000 to Steve Daines.
In a world where screens surround us, it can be challenging to escape political advertisements, especially in October. As you watch, you may be wondering who's behind these ads and how can we know whether what they're saying is true.
Right. So political advertising or any kind of issue advertising where somebody's trying to convince you to feel a certain way about a candidate or an issue, they oftentimes are going to stretch, and they won't lie, but they will get real close to lying about what the candidate or the issue means to the voter, to try and either get them fired up about voting for the other candidate or to kind of scare them about what the implications are of something happening one way or the other.
The real Kathleen Williams, a radical activist and liberal from San Francisco.
Some things just don't fit, like my millionaire opponent in Montana. He's pushed an
Though it may feel overwhelming, Banville has a few recommendations for making sure you can sort through the barrage of information.
Once you know it's an advertisement, it's paying attention to, in particular, the citations that they're required to put at the bottom of the screen, right? They have to say where I'm coming up with this information, and you can actually go check it, or you should be able to go check it. And if you can't, you shouldn't believe anything that came out of that announcer's mouth.
According to Montana.gov, any communication that advocates the success or defeat of a candidate must identify the person who's paid for the campaign materials.
More than enough. RGA Right Direction PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
That means if you can't fact check what the ads are saying, you can at the very least research the organization who's endorsing the ad. There are a few exceptions to this rule, but for the most part, you should be able to quickly type in the name of an organization into any search engine to learn more about them.
All right, and that was Lauren Heiser reporting. And when we come back, Chief Meteorologist Curtis Grevenitz has a full forecast breakdown for us. Just how windy is it, and when will we see that wind go away? And later, both Steve Bullock and Steve Daines claim to be bipartisan in their race for the Senate. Chief political reporter Mike Dennison takes a deeper look into these claims.
Now with Chief Meteorologist Curtis Grevenitz.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Good Monday afternoon to you all. A very windy day, but a day with a lot of rainbows out there. In Helena, Chad's mom, I think Chad emailed this in because she didn't want to, but anyway, I digress. The rainbow you can see right over Helena, and there were a bunch of them out there today when you got sun and showers and wind especially. And we've got snow now in East Glacier. Look at that snow line coming pretty far down here, and there is more snow in the forecast for the mountains. Helena right now looks pretty nice. It's not very nice. Some gusts continue to push 50 miles per hour. That is extremely windy, just kind of nasty out there. In Great Falls, actually this is Geyser looking back at the high woods. You can see some raindrops here. 53 though in Great Falls with wind speeds up to about 36, 40 miles per hour. So everybody extremely windy for this afternoon, and that will continue for tomorrow. Temperatures not the warmest, 40s and 50s. There's Cup Bank cool at 43 degrees right now. These are the sustained winds. The gusts have been 50, 60, even close to 70 miles per hour. And would you look at that, Helena, the strongest sustained wind in the state right now. The wind will continue to be fairly strong through the rest of this evening. It dies down a little bit here tonight into tomorrow morning, and then watch what happens tomorrow afternoon. The wind really ramps up once again, and it will likely be stronger tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow evening than what it is out there right now. Just a brutal wind, very difficult, especially if you're traveling Interstate 15 with this perpendicular wind coming in from the west. Fortunately, by Wednesday afternoon, the wind will die down a bit. Plotted a few of the wildfires, technically still active. Great to see some of the raindrops and even the snowflakes up there. Helen, we've had a few raindrops up here across the High Line, a few heavier showers, Cut Bank, Chester, over through Big Sandy, central Montana, a few showers just blowing through the Lewistown area with snow in the Big Snowies, and some good showers, maybe even a few claps of thunder crossing Fort Peck Lake, moving over to around the Jordan area. Continued wet weather, stormy weather will persist here over the next few days for Montana, the Northern Rockies, and the Pacific Northwest. A few showers and still some wind into the evening hours. That wind again will die down into early tomorrow morning, but here comes the next system. Anybody traveling over McDonald Pass early tomorrow morning, a little snow. The snow levels will be rising as some warmer air works into the state here. Rain showers, maybe a few rumbles of thunder working their way across the state. And once again, tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening, that wind really ramps up here, and we could have stronger wind gusts than what we saw today. Maybe wind speeds up to 80 miles per hour, some gusts, especially off the Rocky Mountain front. And then heading into Wednesday, cold enough air coming in for more snowflakes in the lower elevations. I don't think we'll see much in the way of accumulation down low, but some of the mountain locations will be seeing a few inches. And how about Glacier and the Bob Marshall Wilderness? Maybe more than a foot of snow up near the peak levels. Forecast for tonight, getting a little chilly, and again that wind after midnight easing up here somewhat, but it will be a short-lived break because that wind is back tomorrow. And here's the forecast for tomorrow. Don't expect much in the way of sun. Look at the snow up in Glacier. It's a cool, windy day with rain showers, maybe a few rumbles of thunder out there. Lewistown mostly cloudy with rain showers and a few rumbles of thunder, and maybe a little wet snow in the morning. Right down the Continental Divide, going over to rain, then back over to snow. I know, a lot going on here for Tuesday night into Wednesday. 7-day forecast for Helena. Cool and windy the next few days, but brutal wind for tomorrow. Friday, we're back up into the 60s, but Saturday, a cold front could bring light accumulating snow to the lower elevations here. And for Great Falls, windy this afternoon, another windy, rainy, mostly cloudy day for tomorrow. Some wet snowflakes mixed in on Wednesday, possibly a snow shower on Thursday, and then watching some of the coldest weather we have seen move into the state with, again, some snow in the lower elevations coming through Saturday night into Sunday morning.
Thanks for that, Curtis. In Montana's high-profile U.S. Senate race, Republican Steve Daines and Democrat Steve Bullock are not shy about pointing out their differences, but both men are also touting their ability to work together with members of the opposite party. Tonight, MTN's Mike Dennison takes a closer look at the claims by Daines and Bullock that they are champions of bipartisanship.
If you listen to Governor Steve Bullock's campaign pitch, it won't be long before you hear something like this.
Well, Montana voters have seen how I've actually brought people together to get things done, and that's Democrats and Republicans.
Bullock can make this claim because while he's been governor, Republicans have controlled the legislature, so he has to work with some of them to pass a budget or other big items. For example, he enacted and renewed Medicaid expansion, which brought health coverage to 90,000 low-income Montanans. Also, a landmark law forcing more disclosure of campaign spending in Montana, and a major infrastructure bill passed last year. Yet Senator Daines makes a very similar claim in his standard campaign rhetoric.
Well, I'm grateful that I've been recognized as one of the most bipartisan, most effective senators.
He too can back this up with many victories. Passage of a major land and water conservation bill this year, adding acreage in the Bob Marshall Wilderness, and getting benefits for Vietnam vets injured by Agent Orange while in the Navy.
If you just want to get a press release, you go off and do something by yourself. If you want to get an outcome, you've got to work. You've got to find somebody on the other side of the aisle to join you.
The two candidates must see this as a winning message because they're trying to tear down the other guy's bipartisan credentials. Bullock says another measure of bipartisanship is standing up to your own party, which he says Daines rarely does.
Bipartisanship is more than signing on to a bill with a co-sponsor that's going to go nowhere. 95% of the time, he's voted with Mitch McConnell. 100% of my accomplishments have been bipartisan.
According to the website 538, Daines has supported President Trump on 86% of key votes during Daines' career, but that's one of the lowest agreement rates among GOP senators. Daines also takes this swipe at Governor Bullock on the allocation of federal COVID-19 relief money this year.
Ask the Speaker of the House, Republican. Ask the President of the Senate, a Republican, if Steve Bullock ever once reached out to them to talk about how should we come together in a bipartisan way to spend $1.25 billion. The answer is zero, never reached out.
That's true, although as governor, Bullock has seldom worked with Republican leadership at the legislature. Instead, he works with a more moderate bloc of legislative Republicans to get things passed. So both men can make plausible claims to bipartisanship. Does that matter in these hyper-partisan times? It might, to voters in the middle, who may decide this race. Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
Coming up next on the news at 5, 2020 has been a difficult year for everyone, including farmers, but help is available. What you need to know when we come back.
News Leader. You're watching MTN News at 5.
Welcome back to the News at 5. Like other segments of American agriculture, 2020 has been a very challenging year for farmers who raise pulse crops like chickpeas, lentils, and peas. But as the Montana Ag Network's Russell Nemitz shares, there is some help available.
From market disruptions because of trade wars to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, it's been a challenging year for the U.S. pulse industry. And that's why pulse growers like Paul Canning of Flaxville, who's also a member of the Montana Pulse Crop Committee, are encouraging other growers to visit their local farm service agency and learn more about financial assistance that's available through the second Coronavirus Food Assistance Program.
Producers need to be aware when they're going in to file their paperwork and do their application, whether they're doing it for beef or wheat or canola or alfalfa, to also make sure that they're including their pulse information so that they get the opportunity to get those funds for their pulse crops.
He says the difference between pulse crops and other commodities is that funding is based on 2019 revenue.
Wheat, canola, livestock, you're basically reporting based upon acres or number of livestock that you have. Pulses are different. It's based upon your revenue from your sales last year. And of course, FSA does not have access to that information. That's something that you have to self-report. So make sure you dig through all your paperwork and look at your sales from last year and report that number. There's a graduated scale from 10.6 down to 8.8% that you'll get back based upon those sales that you had last year.
And Paul says that pulse growers can apply for CFAP 2 through December 11th.
Absolutely, and tell your neighbors, because we all kind of get in a routine and assume that the way it was last round is the same way it's going to be this time, and that's not true in this case. So absolutely take advantage of it, use it, and tell your neighbors to do the same thing so that your neighbors get to take advantage also.
In Billings, Russell Nemitz, MTN News.
When we welcome our West Coast viewers, we'll have a look at what's fueling a second full-blown wave of COVID in Europe. Is the U.S. far behind? We'll have the alarming new numbers here. Also, Black Friday prices in October, the way early start to the holiday shopping season. We've got important tips for you when we see you back here tonight.
News Leader. You're watching MTN News at 5.
That's it for the News at 5. We'll be back at 6 with your latest local headlines, but first, NBC's Nightly News is up next.